Welcome to part 2 of the three faces of parties. Let's talk about the party in government. When candidates run for local, state, or national office, their party affiliation usually appears next to their name on the ballot. After an elected official takes the oath of office, many people do not think about the official's party affiliation. But in fact, the party in government, the partisan identification of elected leaders in local, county, state, and national government, significantly influences the organization and running of the government at these various levels. In most towns, the party identification of the majority of the members of the legislative branch, often called city council or town council, determines who will serve as the head of the legislature, sometimes called the president of city council. And in most towns, the president of city council hails from the majority party. In addition, paid professional positions such as city solicitor, that's the town's lawyer, town planner, and city engineer are often awarded on the basis of the support of the majority of council. Even though the entire council votes on appointments, the minority party members often defer to the majority, since appointments typically are viewed as a privilege of winning a majority. Other appointments might include positions on voluntary boards, such as a town planning or zoning board. On the state level, the party in government plays a similarly prominent role in organizing government work. Typically, state legislatures are organized around political party. Seating assignments and committee assignments are made by the majority party leadership and are based on a legislature's party affiliation. In this map, it illustrates the partisan breakdown of state legislatures. In each state, the party with a majority, shown in the figure, in the legislature also has a majority on the legislature's committees, which decide the outcome of proposed legislation. Parties, moreover, are important in the executive branch of state governments, and state governors typically appoint party loyalists to key positions in their administrations. Depending on the appointment powers of the governor, which vary from state to state, a governor may also appoint party members to plum assignments on state regulatory boards. Plum assignments are the really coveted jobs in state government. In states where the governor appoints the judiciary, the governor also frequently selects judicial nominees from his or her own political party. Parties perform a similar role in the federal government. Presidents draw from party loyalists to fill cabinet and sub-cabinet appointments and typically appoint federal judges from their own political party. Congress is organized based on the party affiliation of its members. When representatives or senators refer to a colleague on the other side of the aisle, they are referring to a member of the other political party, since congressional Democrats and Republicans sit across the aisle from one another. As in state legislatures, the party with the majority in Congress essentially runs the legislative branch. From its ranks comes the congressional leadership, including the Senate Majority Leader, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the House Majority Leader. There are limits to a party's power. Probably the most important checks come from the opposition party, which can openly criticize the party in power and aggressively investigate alleged misconduct on the part of its officials. During parts of the Bill Clinton and George W. Bush administrations, for example, the President and members of Congress functioned with a divided government, the situation in which one party controls Congress and the other party the presidency. Divided government emerged after the 2006 midterm elections, when the Democrats won control of both houses of Congress. Democrats in Congress alleged administration misconduct when it appeared that Bush's Attorney General, Alberto Gonzales, dismissed federal prosecutors for political reasons of politics rather than competence. Okay, so let's next focus on an article I found on Gallup website entitled "Amid Shutdown, Americans Not Calling for One-Party Government," deals with divided government. This is from October 11th, 2013, and this article is part of an ongoing series analyzing how the government shutdown and the debate over raising the debt ceiling are affecting Americans' views of government, government leaders, political parties, the economy, and the country in general. Even as the division of power in Washington between Republicans and Democrats is wreaking havoc with the federal government, Americans' preference for having one political party run both the White House and Congress is at a record low. The question was asked, do you think it is better for the country to have a president who comes from the same political party that controls Congress? Does it make no difference either way? Or do you think it is better to have a president from one political party and Congress controlled by another? At 25%, the percentage of Americans today favoring one-party control in Washington is virtually equivalent to the 28% who favor splitting power between the two parties. The plurality, 38%, say it makes no difference. The latest figures are from an October 3rd to October 6th Gallup poll conducted within the first week of the partial federal government shutdown. The freeze on non-essential services resulted from the failure of President Barack Obama and the Republican-led House of Representatives to agree on the latest continuing resolution needed to fund the government. Partisans' views dictated by the sitting president's party. Since Gallup in 2002 started tracking public preferences by party control, that's a tracking poll, Republicans and Democrats' views have seemed largely dependent on which party controls the presidency, and that holds true today. With the Democratic president in office, Democrats currently favor one-party control or divided control by 40% to 14%, with 36% saying it makes no difference. Democrats resulting in a plus 26 net support for single-party control over divided control is down from plus 36 in 2012 amid the heat of the presidential election campaign, but is still strong relative to their views during Republican George W. Bush's presidency. At that time, from 2002 through 2008, Democrats showed at least a slight preference for single-party power, with their net support for it ranging from minus 24 to plus 13%. Republicans, on the other hand, currently believe that having different parties control the presidency and Congress is the best scenario. 19% favor one-party control and 37% favor divided control, with 33% saying it makes no difference. Republicans' negative 18 net support for one-party control today is a sharp change from 2011 and 2012 when they held a slight preference for one-party control. Republicans showed even higher net support for one-party control across Bush's two terms, ranging from plus 14 to plus 38. Independents are the most likely of the three parties to say neither scenario is necessarily better for the country, at 41%. However, the remainder currently lean more heavily in favor of divided government than in single-party control. 33% versus 18% for a net of negative 15. That represents lower support for a single-party control than in 2012, but is similar to the average among independents from 2002 through 2011. One might think that after Americans witnessed this month's spectacular display of political gridlock in Washington, their desire to have one political party control both the presidency and Congress would have surged, but you would be wrong. Many Americans, regardless of their political affiliation, hold firm to the seemingly cynical view that it doesn't matter how party control is organized in Washington. Beyond that, Republicans and Democrats' preferences seem mainly influenced by which scenario would be better for their own party given the affiliation of the sitting president. That leaves the views of non-skeptical independents who lean roughly 2-to-1 toward divided government, a typical posture that possibly reflects their fundamental distance from both parties. This raises questions about how potent the issue of partisan balance will be in the 2014 midterm elections or the 2016 presidential election. Both parties may invoke the shutdown fiasco to try to persuade voters to install a single party, their party, both in the White House and on Capitol Hill. However, if Americans aren't currently convinced this is the best scenario for the country, it may be difficult to kindle that belief in 1 or 3 years. Let's look at their survey methods. Results for this Gallup poll are based on telephone interviews conducted October 3rd through the 6th, 2013, with a random sample of 1,028 adults aged 18 and older living in all 50 U.S. states and the District of Columbia. For results based on the total sample of national adults, one can say with 95% confidence that the margin of sampling error is plus or minus 4 percentage points. Interviews are conducted with respondents on landline telephones and cellular phones, with interviews conducted in Spanish for respondents who are primarily Spanish-speaking. Each sample of national adults includes a minimum quota of 50% cell phone respondents and 50% landline respondents, with additional minimum quotas by region. Landline and cell phone telephone numbers are selected using random digit dial methods. Landline respondents are chosen at random within each household on the basis of which member had the most recent birthday. Samples are weighted to correct for unequal selection probability, non-response, and double coverage of landline and cell users in the two sampling frames. They are also weighted to match the national demographics of gender, age, race, Hispanic ethnicity, education, region, population density, and phone status. Cell phone only, landline only, both, and cell phone mostly. Demographic weighting targets are based on the March 2012 current population survey figures for the aged 18 and older U.S. population. Phone status targets are based on the July to December 2011 National Health Interview Survey. Population density targets are based on the 2010 census. All reported margins of sampling error include the computed design effects for weighting. In addition to sampling error, question wording and practical difficulties in conducting surveys can introduce error or bias into the findings of public opinion polls.